Good evening. It is April 20th, 2022. Lots of twos in there. Welcome to our legislative session. It is 7:30 and we're going to start with the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Hey, hello everyone. It's been a couple of weeks. I was on vacation with my family out of the country, but kept tabs on everything. Thankfully through technology, but nice to see everyone. Oh, hello, Trustee Lopez. Good to see you. Chief, nice to see you. And are there any, let's see, where are we going here?
Mayor, can I start with the roll call, please?
Please.
Thank
I
you.
know I missed something.
Okay. Trustee Fritchie.
Present.
Trustee White.
Present.
Okay. Trustee Lopez.
Present.
Deputy Mayor Quezada.
Present.
Mayor Levin.
And I see Martha's back. Hi, Martha.
Thank you. Hello. Good evening.
Good evening.
Okay, Martha, I will hand it back to you. We're up to Roman numeral 2.
Okay. So do we have any mayors and trustees announcements?
I think we do. Anybody?
Yeah, I have one. This Sunday is Recruit New York through FASNY, Firefighters Association of State of New York. And I don't know if anybody's noticed the signs. We've got a banner across Croton Avenue. We're doing a open house down at 21 State Street, I believe from 11 o'clock to 1 o'clock for, people to come down and see what we do and maybe hopefully get some firefighters out of it. There'll be some demonstrations, a lot of literature, and a lot of people to talk to. So this Sunday between 11 and 1 at 21 State Street. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else?
I'll go. This Saturday, Earth Day Festival down on the waterfront. Don't miss it. It's supposed to be nice weather. Bit chilly, but sunny. So that's good.
That's
Looking forward
perfect.
Yep.
Did you mention it's 10 a.m. to 5 p.m.? I didn't hear it.
I did not. 10 to 5. 10,
Just-
we have an honorary street naming. And then from there, we'll be going to the Earth Day Festival.
Right. I understand it's going to be a little different this year. It might be actually bigger. I know a number of folks from the staff have been involved in the prep work. So I think the chief's been involved, the village manager and staff. So it's a very big event here in Ossining. Looking forward to it. I know I'll be there. I'm assuming many of my colleagues will be there as well. And it should be a fun time for everybody, and also a moment of teaching about the environment and education, thanks to the amazing work of Green Ossining. So looking forward to seeing everyone there. Anything else, Dana?
That's it.
Okay, anyone else?
I will go. Earlier today, there was a fire here in the village there were folks that lived in apartments there. As far as I think it was 5 apartments, and the place was really badly damaged. 5 was more than that. About I saw 3. Okay, 3. 3 apartments. Even 1 apartment is one too many. But I want to thank the Ossining Fire Department for their service, the police department for being on the scene as well. And we had folks from Croton come, from Sleepy Hollow. And so it just shows the way that our nearby communities work together as well to help our neighbors in need. So thank you to them.
Great, thank you. Anyone else? Okay, well, everybody took my bullets. Thank you. Save some time. I am happy to be back home. We were away for 2 weeks. We were in Israel, culminating with the beginning of Passover. It also happens to be Ramadan there, and it happened all around the world. And well, the different events that lead up to Easter Sunday. It's a really fascinating country to be in from that perspective, because it does encompass for centuries all the religions. It's a lot of church groups. I happened to be at a cafe and there was a big church group from Ghana there, and it was just interesting conversations about the major religions. So I do wish happy holidays for all those celebrating. For you and your families, as some of these holidays are still, I think Ramadan, which is the 9th month of the Islamic calendar, I think is still going on, because it's a month-long fast and spiritual moments for Muslims in our community and around the world. Passover is still going on, and Easter culminates, but it still goes on a bit. So wishing everyone a happy family time together. I did have an opportunity and made some arrangements to meet with a couple of mayors while I was in Israel. I was very interested in the environmental work that's going on. In addition to the solar technology, which they are known for, given how much sun they get there, I was fascinated with the advancement in wind turbines, which I did not see last time I was there, which was, I think, 5 years ago, and how much electricity the wind turbine technology provides for their agriculture and some of their cities. So I got a chance to meet the mayor there to learn more. The work being done in that part of the Mediterranean amongst different countries, and looking at wind turbines and placing them in water, also fascinating for how much electricity it produces and how it's replacing other technologies. So I brought some of that knowledge and created some relationship to keep that conversation going. And I spoke to the village manager. They're doing some very interesting work in a couple of the main cities in rezoning. And one of the communities I went to, which has 29,000 residents, which is very similar to ours, and does have a waterfront to it, although it's on 50 acres versus our small little 3.2 acres. The use of rezoning and how they rehabilitate, I think, older buildings. I bring some of that back. There's some interesting work in a different way of looking at zoning that we don't do in this country that they're doing as they retool. Their population is growing at a very rapid rate. And so they are looking at how to use zoning to create communities and to take very old communities with very old housing, some much older than ours, and really rethinking traffic and parking. They have the same parking problem we do, but they do have, and I think Jamie Hoffman had once told me that she scootered all over the place. So electric bikes, electric scooters, electric vehicles, electric stations for apartment buildings and for parking lots are a very big thing there. So all of these things sort of interesting that I want to take back. It's very apropos for Earth Day, because I think we're going to learn a lot on Earth Day, as I do personally every year, from new technologies that might be available to us, and to sort of think through different ways of looking at problems that that we have that others do as well. I did enjoy reading one of the communities just finished their comprehensive plan in 2021. I couldn't believe they actually called it a comprehensive plan. It's like engineers around the world must all speak the same language, but it was great. So we had a lot of notes to compare, and hopefully I'll be learning more as we go forward. Just wanted to share that tidbit of information, and we can go on to the agenda.
Okay, we have administrative reports. Village Manager Karen DeTore.
Karen, are you talking?
Thank you.
Oh,
I am now.
sorry.
Thank you.
Sorry.
Good evening, everybody. So thank you, Trustee Lopez, for bringing up the fire which happened towards the end of the workday today. And I do want to acknowledge a gratitude to the fire department, to the police department, to everybody who helped with that event. It was thankfully there were no injuries, but it is always horrible when something like that happens, but heartening to see how our village first responders, our volunteers rise to the challenge. So thank you for that. We do have some good news tonight. We are moving forward with the Youth Bureau and we'll be appointing the Youth Advisory Board members. this evening. So that's a good step in the right direction, forming the Youth Bureau. The next step will be establishing a youth council, which will be youth-led. And Mike Garcia, the director of the youth director for the Youth Bureau, will be holding information sessions via Zoom on that within the next week or so. So keep an eye out for that, but we are moving ahead with our Youth Bureau. Last week, Con Edison held its annual municipal liaison meeting at Village Hall with staff from village staff and the police department. This is an annual meeting. While the focus is emergency preparedness, emergency response, we work closely with Con Ed during severe weather events and other things that would potentially cause power outages. We did have an opportunity to also discuss with them better communication and making sure that we can work with them so that when we pave a road that they don't have to come and immediately dig it up for something, to better coordination on road work, and then also better communication with the public overall when they are working in the area, as well as timely street repairs. So those are all things that they are taking back, and we're hopeful to get some traction on. Those are things that we hear a lot about from the public and sometimes cause some frustration internally as well. So we were thankful for that opportunity. Following on our conversation about roads here, we did submit 3 funding proposals to our federal representatives, Senator Schumer and Gillibrand, as well as Congressman Mondaire Jones. And each of them received a proposal for funding requests for the Route 9 road diet implementation. So hopefully we'll get some good, some good response there. I mentioned last time that we had representatives from Schumer and Gillibrand's office here. So they're aware of the project, they've seen us firsthand, and hopefully we will get their financial support as well. Members of the DEC were here last Friday, and they were visiting the village and town waterfront parks as part of the climate adaptive design program that was started a few years back when we were working with landscape architects from Cornell. This phase that we're looking at right now is the next step, and it involves a plan that would implement some of the elements of the designs that were developed at the time, including living shoreline features and things that would mitigate sea level rise. As part of our municipal solar initiative, we conducted a site visit at the train station to identify sections where solar canopies would work best, and that's on the east side of the tracks. So we're moving ahead on our green initiatives as well. Trustee White already mentioned that Earth Day is this weekend, but one of the special things that the village will be doing at Earth Day is we will be highlighting Project Mover, which is our e-bike initiative. And if you want, you can take a ride on an e-bike. So we're happy to bring that opportunity. If this program is successful, if it's really part of a whole grant program, if it's successful, the village will receive $7 million to implement an e-bike program. Arbor Day is coming up. Starting on Saturday, you will be able to take a story stroll at Nelson Park, which is a collaborative effort between the Austin Public Library and the Recreation Department. So keep an eye out for that. Our downtown revitalization initiative is also moving forward. And on April 30th, we will have our second community meeting. This one will be in person, and it will be at the Community Center from 12 p.m. to 3 p.m. And we invite everyone to come and provide input on the projects that are being proposed. So I hope to see everybody there. Next Tuesday, we will be launching our Passport parking app. So you may have seen some information about that on social media, that we'll be able to, residents will be able to pay for parking using an app going forward. So again, keep a lookout for that. And with that, I think that pretty much sums up my report for this week. So thank you.
Okay, Corporation Counsel Stuart Kahan.
Thank you, Martha. Good evening, everyone. On tonight's agenda, there will be a discussion toward the end of a proposed local law 4 of 2022, which relates to the formal term bicycles with electric assist, or known as e-bikes, and the ability of the village to implement the use of e-bikes, and in this case, also electric scooters within the village of Ossining. So that'll be a discussion a little bit later on. There will also be a discussion a little later on about an application for a special permit by the owner of 31 Croton Avenue. And it's before this board for a referral to go to the planning board to provide its recommendations with regard to the special permit request. This coming Tuesday, April 26th, there will be a planning board meeting. And as with all planning board meetings, the agenda and all items relating to the matters on the agenda are available online. And folks can view it. They can also view the meeting. And that's it for this week. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, Police Chief Kevin Sylvester.
Good evening. Just a couple things in the police department over the last couple of weeks. We've had a number of programs in Ossining High School, working with students there, both demos from different specialty units and talks with kids in classrooms. Detective Chavez is continuing his Chess with Chavez program. This week, we began in-service training for defensive tactics training, so lots of hands-on training going on here in headquarters. This week, we are looking forward to interviewing what could potentially be our next group of police officers here, with interviews of new hires. Hopefully we can find some really great candidates there. And just one thing on agenda items tonight, you'll see that there's an agenda item to obtain 2 police vehicles, which have been incredibly difficult for us to get. And Lieutenant Donahue has done a tremendous job with a lot of help from Maddie and from finance and everybody to make sure that we can get some cars, because we were darn near out of vehicles at this point. So glad to have some cars back so we can keep doing police work. That's all for tonight. Thanks.
Thank you.
Okay, moving on to organizational announcements. Is there anybody here who would like to make an organizational announcement? If so, please raise your virtual hand. Seeing no one, is there anybody here who would like to make a comment on any of the resolutions on the agenda? If so, please raise your virtual hand. Nobody? Okay, seeing no one, we're going on to the village board resolutions. Approval of minutes, March 28th, 2022. Resolved that the Board of Trustees of the Village of Ossining hereby approves the minutes of the March 28th, 2022 special meeting as presented.
So moved.
Need a second.
Second,
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Was Stuart, was everybody present at that meeting?
No, that's why I abstained. I was
Yeah,
not-
There were just, I believe we just had 3, Martha.
Yeah, so that would be I.
Okay,
It was the mayor, trustee Lopez, and trustee White.
Stuart, okay, so abstain would be trustee Casada.
Myself.
And Fritchie.
And Fritchie, okay, thank you so much. Okay, thank you. Approval of minutes, April 6th, 2022. Resolved that the Board of Trustees of the Village of Ossining hereby approves the minutes of the April 6th, 2022 regular meeting as presented. Do I have a motion?
So move.
Second.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? I believe the mayor has to abstain.
Mayor, you need to
correct?
abstain. You were not here for that meeting.
On what was the date? of
April
this?
6th, 2 weeks
Oh,
ago.
April 6th. I'm sorry. I abstain.
Abstain. Okay, thank you. Approval of voucher detailed April 20th, 2022. Resolved that the Board of Trustees of the Village of Ossining hereby approves the voucher detail report dated April 20th, 2022 in the amount of $790,384.36. Do I have a motion?
So move.
Are there any comments?
Just thank you, Dale, as always, with the descriptions on the emails, and it was a lot of the capital projects. I don't want to say half, but a big chunk of that was capital projects. So appreciate that. Thank you.
Okay. All those in favor?
aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Board of Trustees and Committee Appointments. Resolved that the Board of Trustees appoints the following individuals to the Youth Advisory Board. All terms expire on December 31st. Dr. Walter Hidalgo, Diana Lemon, Wendy Yancey, Janet Gerber, Alice Joslo, Kate Marshall, Tenny A.H. Jones, Harry L. Campbell, James Finger, and Elaine Hutchinson. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Any comments from the board? I will simply say that I appreciate a number of us were in interviews. I would say over the past, I don't know, it took about 2 to 3 weeks in total on the amount of time, lots of good questions, lots of good candidates. We're very grateful for all these volunteers that are joining. The Youth Bureau is a brand new event for this village, and frankly, one of the first youth bureaus in what it turns out to be about 30 years in Westchester. So there are many eyes on us, and we very much appreciate the director's work and the village manager and everybody else involved. And thank all of these folks for stepping up and, you know, starting something new and innovative in Ossining for the youth. Very exciting time. So I thank them all. Very appropriate given that this is National Volunteer Week this week. So that's great. Thank you all. Martha?
All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed? Okay. Authorizing the village manager to sign a retainer agreement with McCullough, Goldberg, and Stott LLP for proposed zoning code updates. Resolved that the village manager is authorized to sign a retainer agreement with McCullough, Goldberg, and Stott LLP, 1311 Mamaroneck Avenue, White Plains, New York, 10605 to work on review and updates to the village's zoning code in accord with the scope of work annexed here too. Do I have a motion?
So move.
Second? Or did somebody,
Any? No, that was right. Any comments on this one?
Yeah, I just, thank you, Mayor. I just have one quick comment, I guess, Karen, in regards to the agreement. There was one item that I have requested. It was sort of like a timeline. So I would like to make sure that that is part of whatever agreement you sign. Please.
It's
make
not
sure-
in the agreement, trustee Quezada, but it is, I did discuss it today with Ms. Whitehead. It is being worked on as we speak.
Okay, as long as we have some code
Right.
somewhere, I would like to, you know, I do appreciate that being part, if it's not part of the agreement, at least attached to that agreement, just so we can keep track of what is, you know, what the status of that at some point. So thank you.
In the interest of, I spoke to Linda Whitehead last week. In the interest of moving forward, you know, we have the agreement ready for tonight, but she is working on the timeline, so we'll have that
Right.
subsequently, but she's very well aware that that's a required item.
Okay, great. Thank you so much.
In the, so I like the phase 1, 2, and 3 timeline is great. My sort of 3 comments are, you know, the boards have been talking about this for years, really. Because everything functions off our codes. And even if we know a code may be a bit outdated or whatever, just changing codes takes, you know, a month and a half process. And that's when everything is all lined up and all the ducks are in a row. So this is, it may not look like a big deal, but this is sort of, I think, a very, somebody on?
Yeah, Bob.
Bob,
wanted
could you
to
mute?
so-
I'm sorry.
No problem. And so I think this is, you know, sometimes these big deal items, we sort of run through them. They don't look like a big deal, but this is a big deal. The way codes and zoning, you know, one of the things you learn as a trustee is they're actually one of the most important things done at the local level that really affect people for many years to come, possibly decades. Not done correctly, you then pay the price. Future boards pay the price for things not done correctly, as we are paying the price for things done 20, 30, 40 years ago. So I really appreciate that this has been bubbled up and forward given all the other projects. So that's one. Number 2, I want the retainer something. When we hired this firm to do other work for us, I thought that we were getting an attorney to work with us, but then it became somebody else. So it's very important to me to know which of the attorneys in this firm, you know, what rate. And you don't have to tell me now. I just wanted that to be also very well understood. whether it's a partner, whether it's an associate. I don't know what level of lawyer it needs, but I want to know who's working on this project. So I really would appreciate that.
Mayor, I can
information.
advise you that the first two stages of this are being worked on by Linda Whitehead and Jim Stout directly.
Okay, good. Phase 1 and 2 is what you're telling me.
That's correct. They will be
Okay.
utilizing other attorneys in their firm to do the actual drafting when it gets to that point. But the initial work for phases 1 and 2 is Ms. Whitehead and Mr. Stout.
Thank you so much. And the question number 3 is in phase 1, 2, and 3, there is a point where it comes to the BOT. I assume it's done in work sessions. So when you get to the timeline, I'm just really interested to see when it comes forth and when the board has input or participates in it. That's all. Not looking for an answer now, just to please keep us informed, because there are a couple of people on this board that are highly interested in this topic. I mean, we are all interested in it, but for sure, you know, this has sort of been not long overdue. That would not be the right statement. I think long awaited would be a more accurate statement. I really appreciate that this is really now being attended to. I'll be really happy as a mayor to know that this is completed during my tenure. So I'm excited about it. So thank you. Is there anybody else that has any comments or questions? I'm looking in the gallery. Okay, thank you, folks. Martha?
All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed? DPW authorization to advertise bids, contract DPW 22-01, installation of new water meters. Resolved that subject to review by Corporation Council, the village clerk is authorized to advertise for bids for contract DPW 22-01, installation of new water meters. Such bids to be returnable to the village clerk. I have a motion.
So
So
moved.
moved.
Second.
Comments? Okay, Martha?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Resolution acknowledging receipt of application for honorary street renaming and referring the application to the village historian. Whereas on or about April 8th, 2022, an application was received from Dr. Gail Marchica, President, Greater Austin Chamber of Commerce, 109 Cortlandt Avenue, Austin, New York, seeking the honorary naming of the corner of Main Street and Central Avenue in memory of Neil Wolf, owner of Bob's Army and Navy. And whereas pursuant to the Village of Austin honorary street naming policy, where the application meets basic criteria, including the proposed honorary street name, B, contributions to the Village of Austin by the proposed honoree. C, the length of time the proposed honoree resided or continues to reside in the village. D, the name of the existing street to have the honorary street name. E, whether the street already has an honorary street name. F, a map identifying the location of the street to receive the honorary street name. And G, the proposed honoree's connection to the street where the honorary street naming is sought. And whereas the application by the Greater Austin Chamber of Commerce meets the basic criteria for honorary street naming. Now therefore be resolved that the application by the Greater Austin Chamber of Commerce is referred to the village historian in accordance with the Village of Austin honorary street naming policy, and that the village historian shall present her report to the Board of Trustees within 45 days of this referral. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Second.
Comments? Martha?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Resolution approving 2002 cabaret license for Diaz Restaurant Incorporated, doing business as Atlantic Bar, 84 Cortlandt Avenue, Austin, New York. Resolved that pursuant to the code, the Board of Trustees hereby approves a cabaret license for 2022 for Diaz Restaurant Incorporated, doing business as Atlantic Bar as follows: Diaz Restaurant Incorporated, doing business as Atlantic Bar, day/hours, Wednesday and Thursday, 8 p.m. to midnight, Friday and Saturday, 7 p.m. to 1 a.m., and Sunday, 7 p.m. to midnight. Type of music, live music with DJs. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Second.
Any comments?
Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Resolution declaring certain village-owned vehicles as surplus. Resolved that the Board of Trustees of the Village of Austin hereby declares the following vehicles as surplus equipment and authorizes their disposal in accordance with the New York State law by sale or otherwise as is. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Second.
Any comments? Okay, all those in
What is,
favor?
I'm sorry, hold on one second. surplus 2000. So a 2019 car is part of that as well? That's unusual, isn't it? I don't even know who I'm asking.
Mayor, this list came from the police department and basically, explained that all of these vehicles are past their useful life. I'm sure the chief can speak a little bit more, but 100,000 miles on a police car is something like 300,000 miles on a regular car. So they don't really last typically as long. But the lieutenant did inform me that all of the pieces that would be useful to us in the future have already been removed from these cars. So they
Okay,
have
so I
really
guess the year doesn't
passed.
matter.
The
Okay,
2019 was hit within a week of being in service by someone passing a red light.
great. Okay. All right. Martha?
All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed? Okay, finance budget modification, FYE 2021 budget transfers between appropriation accounts. Resolved that the 2021 general fund budget is modified to transfer monies between various appropriation accounts and to appropriate excess revenues received for unanticipated expenditures during the year summarized by the village treasurer. And be it further resolved, village departmental heads are authorized to balance their departmental budgets within object/item categories, i.e. within 100 personal services accounts or within 400-800 contractual accounts, or between object/item categories, i.e. between 100 personal services accounts, 200 equipment accounts, and or 400-800 contractual accounts, subject to the approval of the village treasurer, village manager as follows. Do I have a motion?
So
I'm
moved.
reading through all of them.
I need a second.
Second,
Okay, any comments?
Yeah, I'd like Dale to explain some of this. Dale, is this normal?
Yeah, just a brief count before Dale goes back. That was part of the work session last week. I know you.
Okay, I
missed
didn't see
it,
the
but
video
definitely-
yet.
that's
Okay. So
So
you
Dale,
all
please-
discussed it and everybody's happy with $1.5 million
Yeah,
and
but-
then a transfer of 115. Okay.
But please, Dale, just summarize it, please.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you. Trustee Casada. Yes, we did discuss these at the work session. And this is an annual occurrence as we are closing our books for the prior fiscal year.
Okay.
We do have to do some housekeeping, we call it, to make sure we are not over budget in any given department or function code, whether it's a 100, a 200, or 400 code. We make sure we are not over budget in any of those lines to satisfy our audit requirements. In the memo I had sent, it provides more detail behind the actual back and forth of the resolution moving the funds.
Okay.
But I'm happy to report that every department is really just moving funds within their own department lines in order to cover one line that might be over due to actual cost allocation versus budget allocation. Because like in areas of the leaves, and if we budget a certain amount for each department for overtime, but they end up spending more time doing leaves, then we charge it to the 8160 department. So it's really just a matter of moving the funds from one DPW department to another DPW department. So this is a final cleanup as we are in audit this week and next week to finish up the 2021 fiscal year.
Right. Well, so it's the end of the first quarter. We're actually past the first quarter. So great. Okay. Thank you. Martha, I think we're in the middle of a vote.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Finance budget modification, FYE 2021 budget modifications for water fund. Resolved the 2021 water fund budget is modified to transfer excess available appropriations as follows. Do I have a motion?
So moved. Second.
Comments?
Okay, all
Martha?
those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, finance budget modification, FYE 2021 budget modifications for sewer fund. Resolved that the 2021 sewer fund budget is modified to transfer excess available appropriations as follows. Do I have a motion?
Move.
So moved. Second.
Comments? Martha?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Finance budget modification, FYE 2021, budget modifications for Section 8 Housing Program Fund. Resolved the 2021 Section 8 Housing Program Fund is modified to appropriate COVID Care Act revenues received aggregating $53,115.33 and to adjust other appropriation accounts as follows. Do I have a motion?
So move.
Second.
Comments? Martha?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Finance 2021 budget modification of various capital projects from debt financing sources. Whereas village management established capital projects for various capital purposes and purchases aggregating $580,000, which were part of the village's 2020 capital plan and designated to be financed by issuance of a serial bond. And whereas total actual costs for the equipment total are under budget, individual projects require adjustments. Now therefore be it resolved, capital project and capital project budgets are adjusted as follows. Do I have a motion?
So move.
Second.
Comments? Martha?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Finance, budget modifications of 2021 street and sidewalks resurfacing capital project from 2021 debt financing sources and CHIP state aid funding. Whereas village management established a capital project in accordance with the 2021 capital plan for street and sidewalk resurfacing not to exceed $590,000, designated to be financed by issuance of $250,000 serial bonds and $240,000 CHIP state aid funding. Whereas CHIP state aid funding exceeded anticipated budgeted amount by $26,325. Now therefore be it resolved, capital projects and capital project budgets are adjusted as follows. Do I have a motion?
So move.
Second.
Comments? Martha?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Finance budget modifications, 2020 street resurfacing and sidewalks capital project in 2021. Resolved the 2020 streets resurfacing and sidewalks capital project budget originally established in the amount of $1 million to be funded with CHIP state aid of $400,000, a transfer from the general fund 2019 fund balance surplus of $450,000 and a DASNY state aid grant funds of $150,000, whereas CHIP state aid funding originally budget of $400,000 is reduced by $119,981.97. Now therefore be it resolved, capital projects and capital project budgets are adjusted as follows. Do you have a motion?
Move.
Second.
Comments? Martha?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Finance 2021 budget modification and close 2016 Broadway Bridge Rehabilitation Capital Project, whereas a resolution of the Board of Trustees on March 16, 2016, a capital project was established with the estimated engineering and construction management costs of $211,000 associated with rehabilitation of the Broadway Bridge and funded with a transfer of $211,000 from the general fund. And whereas a resolution of the Board of Trustees on February 21st, 2018, a capital project budget adjustment was authorized for additional capital project budgetary appropriations in the amount of $2,600,000 for the construction costs associated with the Broadway Bridge reconstruction project, with said appropriations to be financed by issuance of a serial bond adopted under a separate resolution. And whereas the Board of Trustees now wishes to authorize transferring the unexpended balance of $182,400.14 to the debt service fund and reduce the bond anticipation amount portion of the borrow by the unexpended project balance. Now therefore be resolved, the Broadway Bridge reconstruction capital project budget is modified as follows. The budget of the debt service fund is amended. Do I have a motion?
So move. Second.
Comments? Martha?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Authorizing the emergency procurement of 2 pursuit certified police vehicles from New Holland Auto Group. Whereas the Village of Austin's procurement policy identifies emergency procurements as an exception to competitive bidding requirements pursuant to General Municipal Law Section 103(4), and whereas the following 3 basic statutory criteria must be met to fall within the emergency exception. exemption. A, the situation must arise out of an accident or unforeseen occurrence or condition. B, public buildings, public property, or the life, health, safety, or property of the village's inhabitants must be affected. And C, the situation must require immediate action that cannot await competitive bidding. And whereas the Village of Austin Police Department has been actively looking to replace 4 police vehicles, and whereas efforts by the Austin Police Department to locate dealers in New York State from whom the vehicles could be purchased have been unsuccessful, and whereas Austin Police Department personnel have been able to locate 2 police vehicles to purchase in Pennsylvania, and whereas to secure the 2 police vehicles, the village must notify the vendor in Pennsylvania as soon as possible, and whereas there's an immediate need for these 2 police vehicles, and there is great concern that if the vehicles are not secured, the department might find it even more difficult to locate available police vehicles for purchase. Now therefore be it resolved that the Board of Trustees determines that an emergency exists warranting the use of the emergency procurement exemption of the village's procurement policy, and been further resolved that the village manager is authorized to sign purchase orders for 2022 Ford Police and Interceptor utility vehicles, patrol style and chief style, in accord with the price quotes dated April 19, 2022 from New Holland Auto Group, 508 West Main Street, New Holland, Pennsylvania, 17557. Do I have a motion?
So move.
Second,
Comments? Martha?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Fire Department Tax Exemptions 2023. Result of the Board of Trustees of the Village of Austin hereby approves the following fireman tax exemption for the 2023 year. Do I have a motion?
So move.
Second.
Any comments?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
I'm sorry, Bob, just quick question, Stuart. Will he be abstaining for this vote
Which one?
for the fire department?
Is his name on there?
Yes.
Oh,
That would be correct.
Okay, so let me just. Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
aye,
Okay,
Okay.
and then abstain, thank you. Fire Department removal from active roles, Hollow Hose Company. Resolved that the Board of Trustees of the Village of Austin hereby removes John Macy from the active roles of the Austin Fire Department Hollow Hose Company. Do I have a motion?
So move. Second.
comments?
yeah, well,
Martha?
Mr. John, oh, sorry, he passed away and he was a longtime member of the community and the fire department.
Oh, thank you for that.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed? Is there any continuing business of the board? Okay, and then we have new business of the board. We have first 31 Cortland Avenue, acknowledgement of receipt of letter requesting special permit pursuant to Village Code Section 270-15.1E5C.
Thank you, Mayor. I believe we have Mr. Chernoff, Mr. Hernandez, and our planning director. This is an application for a special permit in accord with the recently adopted changes to the zoning code relating to the Croton Avenue overlay zone and overlay district. And Jaime, perhaps you just want to give a little bit of background.
Yes, so the property is 31 Croton Avenue, as Stuart mentioned. It's down the street from Village Hall, and sort of in between the library and Village Hall. The property currently is sort of 2.5 story, 3 stories, depending on how you look at it, older historic building. The proposed project is going to retain the existing structure, but add an addition to the back, as well as or the proposal, I should say, is to add a portion to the back of the property, as well as to add a story on the top of the property that would be offset by about 15 feet going back. The proposal is currently at 5 stories because the 5 stories in the district can only be acquired through a special permit from the Board of Trustees under the form-based code. That's why they're here today to talk about that 5th story. It's a currently a retail shop with some residential above it. The conversion would turn it into a fully residential building with 5 units. Yeah, and that's about it. It's almost completely, if I may need to go back and check, it may be fully compliant with the form-based code. So yeah, that's the project.
And folks, just to understand, in line with the special permit rules, this would go to the planning board. They would provide you with a recommendation. Once their application for site plan is complete, then it would come back to this board to hold a public hearing and ultimately vote on the special permit.
Is it 29 and 31 or 31?
It's just 31.
Who owns 29?
We own 29 as well. Actually, part of the project entails a no-build easement on 29 because we will be extending back and there will be windows in the rear where we will need a no-build easement in order for those windows to be legal. So essentially 29 will be unable to be further developed in perpetuity.
So 29 doesn't get developed, it stays the same height, but 31 goes up 2 flights. Is that right?
Just one, actually a partial story.
One, and it's not retail on the bottom, but residential on the bottom?
Correct.
Okay, and is it going into the ground? I don't understand. I never know how to read all these things. What is this lower level with the gradation thing?
So Mayor, if I may, Jaime, is there a way that you can share? I'm looking at the Google Earth and I'm looking at probably, is there any way that you can just put that? I think the photos as well, Mayor, kind of gives you a little bit of an idea.
Yeah,
So
the
let's
photos
have
are
a-
actually great.
Yeah.
Yes, I could. We do have JB here, I believe. Is JB here?
JB just called me. He's at a meeting in Sleepy Hollow. I think he's trying to get on his phone and maybe.
Oh, okay,
Not
I will pull up
successfully
the,
doing so.
I'll pull up the
He's
document
here.
right now.
He's here. I'm gonna bring him over.
Yeah, if we can just put a Google map street view, so we
Was
can
this
actually see
discussed
that.
in the work session or is this?
No, this
first
was
time?
actually put on hold, Mayor.
Okay, got it.
Yeah.
Now I remember. All right.
Mr. Hernandez is here.
Okay. Did he hear the question or should I repeat it or?
I think Mayor.
So
think
if I may,
Jaime-
when you're looking across the street on Croton Avenue, what you're really seeing is a 3-story building.
Correct.
But because of the topography of Ossining, as we extend this building back, the lower floor will be above grade more and more as it goes. And so at the rear of the building, it will become more above ground presently than it is underground.
Got
Not
it.
visually from Croton Avenue, but technically so in the
Because
backyard.
it's on a hill. Got it.
Because it's sloping to the back.
Right.
And so, whereas in actuality, as I guess I see it and anyone walking by sees it, what we're asking for is a partial 4th floor. Technically, what we're asking for is a partial 5th floor because of that grade change. And that is the part that triggers us needing to come to you for the special permit.
Right. And where's all the parking going?
There is no parking. There's no parking presently, and the Kellard Sessions review of it shows that actually the project as anticipated would have actually a parking need which is less than the present parking need.
Why is that? If you're adding more units, how is that less?
Because the commercial use would actually trigger more of a parking need than the residential use.
I see. So from their point of view, from a realistic point of view, I don't think that retail space has had all that much parking. It's basically okay, but
Well, it's been essentially vacant for a very long time.
exactly. Okay, and all the residences are using the street. Okay.
So these are the plans, and so you can see this is the This part is the older piece of the building. This is the back of the building in the newer portion.
Peter, what's going on that roof deck? Was there anything besides you're putting a roof deck for the tenants? Is that what you're doing?
Right, there'll be a roof deck for the upper apartment. And then each apartment will have its own outdoor space. So the basement level would have the garden, and then each level would have a deck in the back. Because we're jutting out past 29, we actually pick up river views from really the second floor, even a little bit from the first floor.
All right, and these are all rentals?
Yes.
Okay. Well, those were my questions. I didn't know if you guys discussed them or not. Okay, I'll open it up to the gallery. Comments, questions?
So basically, this is in the Croton Avenue overlay district, which is allowed 4 stories, if I'm correct, with the special permit. It'll appear as 5 from the rear, but from the front, it appears as 4. Am I correct?
That's correct. And the view from the front, something which we presented to the planning board, hopefully it's here. It's visually, you can't really see it very well. I mean, you're from Highland, when you're looking through sort of, there's various types of structures over there, lower commercial and so forth. And there's a bunch of trees. Even when it's winter, you barely see it. In the summer, you don't see it at all.
Okay.
I should add also that part of the project envisions rehabbing the front of the building and making it, the upper one is the existing front. As you know, somebody's got some vaguely disgusting stucco that they slapped on there, probably covering up some, brick that really needs a lot of attention. But the plan is to restore it in the manner that 29 was restored. And create a look of 2, side by side, pretty historic buildings.
What happens to that big window in the retail space? I imagine if you're living in there, you wouldn't want that big window on the street.
No, I plan to keep it. I mean, that's going to be the living room. I don't think it's really a negative. You're not right at street level, so I think it's a nice large window in the apartment. We're going to keep that whole storefront. That unit will have a private entrance because the door is already there. So
I like that you're going to take the stucco off.
Yeah, the stucco is terrible.
Wonder
I
what
mean,
you're gonna find.
I'm not looking forward to it because it's probably going to be costly, but I don't want to leave the building looking like that.
Yeah.
Okay. Anybody else have any questions or comments?
Well, I appreciate the care to be taken with them. These are 1870s kind of row houses, and kind of unusual for Croton Avenue, but they're nice. They're nice buildings. So.
Yeah, and apparently we'll have nice views, and I like the rooftop. Peter, you own either of the properties on either side of that, or just these 2?
No, just these 2.
Okay, got it. All right. And,
relative to the construction, there's an alleyway down the right side, so we'll have easy access to get to the rear as needed.
Okay, so Stuart, what are we being asked to do specifically tonight?
Actually, Mayor, this was just to inform the board that the request has come in, and it goes, there's no need for a resolution. It just will go to the planning board, and they will then provide this board with its recommendation. And at that time, the board will schedule a public hearing. So there is no ask of the board this evening.
Okay. Thank you. And it doesn't look like anybody has any other questions, or none that I'm hearing. So
No,
I guess,
I mean, correct me. I mean, it seems to be like Jaime said, it aligns to what we created in a way, the overlay that was created in that zone. I'm assuming that it has to go in front of the HPC because it is part of the store. No, I'm sorry.
No, it's not.
No, sorry,
It's
no.
not, it's just
planning board
outside of
and
it.
then the alternate, yeah, the zoning board and the planning board.
Right.
And-
Not the zoning board, just the planning board.
But if he's asking for variance for parking, or he's asking for.
It's in the
waiver.
VC district, so
Okay, so he's
eligible
asking
for
for a
parking
waiver.
waiver, yes.
Doesn't
Okay.
sound like the parking's
All right,
actually
so
an issue.
it's a waiver, okay.
Mhm.
I guess the only thing, Pete, that I will say is like, you may want to double check, because I think that building may be a contributed building within a historic district. So there may be some credits. You may want to take advantage of, if you wanted to restore, you may want to take advantage of if there's credits available on the New York State, on SHPO itself. So just take a look at it, I guess. That will be my comment. But I'll wait for the
Alright.
recommendations.
I guess
of-
I should look at it. I don't know. I'm not sure if it's been changed too much to qualify for those, but certainly, you know,
No, I think, well,
I like money as well as the next person. I'll definitely look into
yeah,
it.
the
certainly,
planning board, yeah, the planning department itself should have the contributing, non-contributed buildings within its historic district, and just
Okay.
have double check that. I'm pretty sure those buildings were, because I was part of that at that time. So just, you know, I could be wrong, but just have Jaime double check that it may help.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, anybody else? I'm assuming the value of the buildings will increase. So, and that it's a nice additive to what already exists, which I happen to like those buildings to begin with, but sounds like it's gonna be even better. So wait to see what the board has to say, not this board, the other one. Thank you, sir. Anyone
you.
else? All righty, thank you.
Okay, we have discussion of proposed local law to implement electric assist vehicles, e-bike program. We have Evan Costoglia from Nelson Nygaard here.
Welcome.
Hello, everyone. Thanks for having me.
Okay, let's see. This is under new business. If somebody put it on a new business, does anybody want to say anything about it?
It was placed under new business, Mayor, because we are under a significant time crunch. The local law, in order to qualify for consideration for the NYSERDA grant, must be adopted by the 1st of June. So we have a fairly tight schedule. So the local law is being presented to the board tonight. It is hoped that next week, even though it's a work session, there can be a brief special meeting to call for a public hearing on May the 4th. The hearing would be on the 4th with a vote potentially to adopt on the 18th of May. So we would meet the June 1st timing requirement. Evan is here to talk from the Nelson Nygaard end and from the Project Mover end. The local law, which was sent around to you folks yesterday, is to essentially allow the village to proceed with bicycles with electric assist, known as e-bikes, as well as electric scooters. The important part, specifically important part that relates to the Project Mover end, is to have the essentially the shared system by use of docking stations where folks can get the bicycles, they can get charged, and then drive around. But this is all part of this is within the local law, and it includes essentially what is in the state vehicle and traffic law. Westchester County itself has not passed any legislation with regard to e-bikes. That's important because since that has not been done, the only limitation that the board can put with regard to operation of e-bikes is where. So the board can limit the streets where it can be done. It cannot limit really anything else other than what is within the code. So, but this local law essentially adopts it. There would be two potential types of e-bikes that are available. They're class 1 and class 2. There is a class 3, but that only applies in the city of New York. Class 1 is essentially you pedal. Class 2, it just goes with the motor, but both of them could go up to, with the motor, up to 20 miles an hour. Throughout the village. This local law would do that. The local law also does two other things. One, it adds electric scooters, not for purposes of a sharing system, because the sharing system is not permitted for electric scooters in Westchester County. It was only included in whatever county has a population of between 1,570,000 and 1,575,000. I suspect that's one of the counties in the city of New York, but we'll leave that where it is. And also, if the board chooses to go forward with electric bicycles, it will require some changes to Chapter 255 of the code, which deals with unlicensed motorized vehicles. Currently, no unlicensed motorized vehicles are allowed to operate in the village. So this would require a revision to that chapter, which is also included within the local law. So that's what it is. Evan, if I've missed anything, just you're the master of this, so I'll leave it to you.
Yeah, and just to give you all a little bit of background, I'm a principal at Nelson Nygaard, which is a transportation consultancy. I have developed shared micromobility systems across the country and helped develop legislation like this for several communities across the country. I think the only thing that I would add, Stuart, is that your comment about the ability of the board to dictate where bicycles can operate, that is intended for to indicate where people that are riding bikes, they can actually, where they can and cannot ride bikes.
Correct.
And that doesn't mean that this legislation would indicate where bike share stations would be located. Right. That would be dictated through a license agreement that is forthcoming.
Okay, and so anything we pass for this is not specific to the project. It's a necessary data point in the project, but it seems that if somebody chooses to purchase an e-bike and they can ride their e-bike, they're not distinct. So I'm a big proponent. There was a reason I mentioned all the scootering around on electric. I don't know how fast I was able to go, whether it was beyond, since I can never figure out kilometers per hour, even though I learned them when I was a kid. But I was going pretty fast. I don't know if it's 20 or 25, but everything you're stating is similar to what I've seen elsewhere around the world. It's great. It really allows people who can't afford cars or can't use cars, frankly, to get from point A to B to C really easily. And it is one of the things that allows mobility when you don't own a house and you don't have to plug things in, because that's where the sharing part comes in. So I'm a big proponent of this. I support this, but there might be questions. So let me open it up to the gallery and see if there are questions or comments. I do have one more question. Is your company or anybody going to be at Earth Day with the e-bike concepts or anything?
So Mayor Levin, I will not be present, nor will anyone from Nelson Nygaard, but the operator, Acton, will have a representative available, and they will be making 2 e-bikes available for test rides. There will also be a docking station available so that folks can understand how people dock and charge the e-bikes when they're done with their trips. So it's just a good opportunity to look, touch, and feel what the e-bike system might look like in the village.
Great, thank you. All right, any questions, thoughts, comments? Okay. Fantastic. Thank you so much. And so Stuart, next step.
Next step, Mayor, will be, as I said, we would ask that next week we have a brief special session before the work session to call for the public hearing on the 4th of May.
Fabulous. Thank you so much.
One
Thanks for
thing,
coming,
Mayor,
sir.
I just,
Yes.
so again, for the board to consider is, are there locations in the village where you do not want the e-bikes or scooters to operate? The way the law is written, it's been there, it's similar to like our vehicle and traffic. We would have schedules at the end of the code, which would indicate where you would not want the e-bikes to operate. And as Evan points out, that has nothing to do with the docking stations. It's solely with regard to operation, but that is something that's essentially within the board's realm, as well as within, the village's parks and, other publicly owned properties. So that's a matter for the board to consider and weigh in on as to where it would be. If there's nothing, then basically the entire village will be open to operations of e-bikes. I should also point out that e-bikes are not operated on sidewalks. They can, however, be parked on sidewalks in 3 specific circumstances. One, if it is owned by, the way the statute is worded, because it's based on the vehicle and traffic law, if it is owned by a natural person and that person is using it for their own use, that's one. If it is being used to deliver essentially goods and services like meals and things like that, or to compliance with the Americans with Disabilities Act. And those 3 circumstances, they can be parking on sidewalks. Otherwise, the answer is no, and they certainly cannot be driven on sidewalks.
Interesting. One would have thought you could draw a little blue line square and make space for these things to be parked so that people know that they should park it there and not just leave them any old place. That would actually make more sense than not allowing people to park them on a sidewalk. More thought on that. I do have so I'm not an expert in, in every square foot of this village and where I would want or not want, because I don't know what the qualifications are. Like if the grade is too steep, do we not allow people to go that route? It's not an expertise I have. I don't know if anybody on the board has that expertise. Don't we have mobility like consultants or somebody that could tell us like your ideal scenario? Because this is not, I'm not an expert in this. I could say, hey, I don't want it on this street because there are too many baby carriages and strollers and it's just going to get in the way. You're not allowed to ride them on the sidewalk. So then the question goes to like, so where are you allowed to ride them? How does one even make those decisions? We can have an hour's conversation and not come to a conclusion.
So Mayor, can I piggyback on that with two topics, I guess, of conversation? Because right now we really don't have any bike lanes in our village. I think we have one sort of kind of, but not really. So my concern will be the implementation of the bikes. Not that I'm against it. I just think if we're going to go this route, we need to start looking into pedestrian safety issue and bike safety issues on this regards. The other general question that I have is how many bikes were you thinking, if anything, to bring to the village of Austin? Is that something that you guys have an idea or a number?
Yeah, so just to respond very quickly, Manuel, in terms of bicycle and pedestrian safety, as part of this effort, we are looking into a series of neighborhood streets that parallel main corridors that would be used for, that would be signed and have applications that make it more visible for people that are riding bikes and more visible for people that are driving to understand that there are people riding bikes on that street. So that is part of the effort. The other thing to note is that there will be somewhere between 100 and 200 e-bikes available for the shared bike program. Those are the bikes that would be docked at stations. You can't park them anywhere else but stations, so it'll be nice and orderly. So 100 to 200. And then there's a separate program that's known as a lease to own program. So essentially, folks that want to eventually own an e-bike, they will have the option to pay a very low cost monthly payment with intent that they eventually own it. And the total number of bikes that would be available through that program is to be determined but likely in the same kind of 100 to 150 bikes range.
Now, so let me piggyback on what you said. So you're talking about 100 bikes. What about scooters? Is that a mix, or is that a different number?
There is, Maddie, do you want to respond to that?
Yeah, I was just going to hop in because I'm sure Jamie's thinking the same thing. This is only for e-bikes, Deputy Mayor. We know that there are some folks who own and operate scooters or e-scooters within the village, but that is not something that we're looking to get into from the village perspective at this time. This will be e-bikes only.
Okay, because the title it says electric bikes, assistance, and electric scooters.
It
Yeah, but
does,
Manny-
Deputy
Manny,
Mayor, if I
people can-
might, Mayor, I took the liberty there because there are people who might want to operate electric scooters.
Got it.
It was just, rather than have to amend the code later, the thought was to
Thanks
put
for
it
that.
in now. It is
Got
not
it.
part of the Project Mover program.
Gotcha. Got
Right,
it.
so
All right.
we're here because of a project and a need for a timeline leverage point. That doesn't mean that 42 people tomorrow can't go out, buy electric bikes or electric. I already own an electric bike. You're not preventing people from owning, and they can use it. This is specific so that this project that we're hoping to really move forward on, called the Mover Project. But whatever we do with this, it's also for people who go out and buy it and or own it already and want to use the same those same resources, meaning the same lanes or whatever. And the traffic management, I think, is always a big challenge with these things, and keeping people off sidewalks. And, you could always find flaws in every program, but if you do that, you never move forward on any program. So we're trying to figure this out. So do we have any objections to going forward with this, or are we all in? Okay, I should ask in the positive. Are we all supportive of moving forward to approve this for next week? Not to approve it, we're not voting, but to put it on the agenda for next week as legislation and have a special meeting.
That's fine. I'm okay
That
with
would be
that.
good. All right. Well, thank you, sir. Stuart, I think we're good to go. I'm feeling like, are we the first in Westchester to move forward on this? That we might be a pilot program for the rest of the county, to maybe for the county to start thinking in terms of legislation, so each municipality doesn't have to go through this. Is that part of of something that we might want to propose? Or, I mean, that's a political statement. Maybe that's not a legal issue, is it?
Stuart,
But
I don't want to step on you. I'm not sure I know exactly the answer, but Mayor, I will say that, we've had conversations led by Sustainable Westchester, led by 501 New York Rideshare. There is a great appetite for communities in Westchester to get what Nelson Nygaard is hopefully going to be bringing to our doorstep. And part of the conversation had been, well, hey, in the meanwhile, we better get ready. What kind of legislation exists? So I'm not sure if we're the first, but we're definitely among the first, from what I can tell based on those conversations.
And Mayor,
Okay.
what I can tell you is researching the other codes within Westchester, the only other code I found was in the city of New Rochelle, within the
Right.
immediate area. Otherwise, there is New Paltz, and then you have to go all the way west to Broome County to the village of Johnson City. So there are
Never heard of
not
Johnson
many.
City, but I'm sure it's lovely.
There are not many that have it, but New Rochelle actually does.
Well, New Rochelle did that because they were piloting something, if I recall. Anyway, so basically, if we're not the first, we're in the first 5, and maybe we can hope that this really works and meets all the goals that we have in mind. Affordability is a key item here. And a replacement of cars, which are so expensive and increasingly more expensive, so that people can move at least locally or to Phelps if they need to go to visit someone, etc., because that's within the distance, or to their jobs without owning cars. So affordability has like an X and Y access here. Great. Well, all 5 of us are in support, it sounds like, so we will look forward to looking at the legislation as it is written for next week, unless somebody has some changes for the attorney now. Feels like we're moving forward.
Mayor, if I might, I would also like to profoundly thank Stuart. He has been our hero on this project, and I think Evan and Jamie can probably echo that. You know, this would not have been possible without him, and certainly us getting ready for this Saturday on Earth Day would absolutely not have been possible.
I know he's got his head bent down, but he loves this. Come on. Stuart, this is great. I mean, this is like really super exciting this whole evening. Maybe it's because I went away. Maybe I need to go away. You guys got all this stuff done. It's unbelievable. This is like big stuff. Big environmental move, crossing our fingers for the big grant that will allow a big change, code changes. Man, this is a great evening here. Look at that. Karen is tired. You should be tired.
That
This is
was
great
not on
stuff.
point.
No, I'm thinking you should be tired. You're entitled. But anyway, thank you.
I
Evan,
echo
very much.
Maddie's sentiments. Stuart is indeed a hero, and this is monumental.
Yeah, this is a lot of work. This is great. Thank you. And thank you for joining us, Evan. And you know, looking forward to moving this forward. There's going to be all sorts of enforcement issue, traffic, mobility, but I really think we're going to need recommendations. Stuart, I just don't see the 5 members of the board, you know, spending lots of hours deciding every street and which one should have what. It doesn't, I mean, we can have a category like we wanted in this group or that group, but I'd like to see some recommendations because some of the streets I would imagine are not ideal, but they have to somehow be connected because you have to get from point A to point B and there has to be a connectivity. Otherwise you're sort of stuck. So I'm sure people who are experts in mobility will enlighten us. Great stuff. Thank you. Oh, I'm sorry. Did you want to add something, Evan?
Yeah, just one last thing to that point, and for the board's consideration, the operator, Acton, they have the ability to govern the top speed of the bicycle by street. So certain streets you might be able to ride, 15 miles per hour, and then other streets, if there's a lot of pedestrians, like Main Street, they can govern it to say, 10 or 12 miles per hour. So there is that level of kind of scrutiny that you can get into if you want.
Right, and lots of data. And lots of data. And is the e-bikes? They're all done by an app, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, they stopped my bike at some point because I went too close to the water. Apparently, I almost went flying off the thing. So I didn't know that somebody could actually do that remotely. So I've been deep in experiencing the joys of e-riding. Thank you, folks. Appreciate it. Thank you, Evan. Fingers crossed that we just keep moving forward on this. Very exciting. All righty. Martha.
Okay, is there anybody here who would like to address the board on an issue not related to the agenda, but of relevance to the common good of the village? If so, please raise your virtual hand.
There's no hands up.
No hands, okay, seeing no one, can I have a
I'm
second?
sorry, Martha, I know that the folks from Atlantic and Tierras Tropicalis are here because I spoke to them. I'm not sure if we just want to remind them that this would be the point in the meeting that they might want to raise their hands.
Actually, I think they missed their opportunity, but okay.
Carlos.
Oh, I see. Relating to issues not relating to the agenda.
Okay. Carlos, I'm going to bring you over. My mouse works. Carlos, if you could please turn on your camera and unmute. Thank you.
You're on, sir.
Hello.
Hello.
Hi, thank you for the opportunity for let me speak to everybody here tonight. I got a situation. I received a letter from the village from Asenin. They're going to remove the 3 space parking in front to the building 84 Croton Avenue. This building, they got 2 businesses there, Atlantic Bar and Tierras Tropicales. They got this space for a long time, like more than 10 years, more than 20 years. The thing is, we don't have like a space to parking when the delivery go there. And me also, for my bar, they go 3 or 4 times in the week to doing the delivery. to Tierras Tropicales, they doing more than me. So if they remove the parking, they don't have a space to give me like my supplies or something like that, you know? And next to me is going to be our Walgreens pharmacy. And I tried to make a deal with Walgreens, but they don't want to they don't want to make it like a deal with me because this is a private property. And I don't know what I can do, you know? Maybe you can help to let me know where I find something to make something to where is the delivery going to parking.
Okay. Any ideas?
Oh, there's the alley next door. I don't know what you're bringing in deliveries. You also got Todd Place across the street that you could park a truck if you wanted to come across the street that way. This is basically a mobility and life safety issue. And I understand what you're saying about the 3 parking spaces, but there is options out there. It doesn't shut you down completely.
You're suggesting the street across the street.
Well,
And
go
then
to
you
Todd
just
Place.
walk over.
I watch people in Manhattan walk a block with stuff, 2 blocks. You're complaining because it's not in front of your front door. I hear you, but there's options out there. Todd Place is a good option.
It sounds like the village is going to be doing this. And you don't have anything behind your building, right?
No,
Sir? Okay.
no.
Right. So that's a very busy intersection that's had a lot of issues with cars parked there and day and night, actually. It really disturbs the traffic. So it sounds like while it'll be more challenging, this right across the street is a street where the truck can be parked and the person can take the trolley and walk right across the street. When there's a red light, it's not even that far of a distance per Trustee Fritchie's comments. So I think we're most likely, based on the recommendation of the village and the police and everybody else, are going to move forward with it because there is another option. It's just not right in front of your front door, from what I'm hearing. Does that make sense?
So let me ask you, taking the alleyway for me for deliveries it just doesn't make sense. Sure, it's too tight and plus serves the residential part of that particular building. I can see the street across from their business, but at that point, when I drove early today, we don't have anything that it says loading sections or not to park in this corner to help them out. So if we are removing the 3 or 4 parking spaces that are in front of the particular business right now, what are we doing instead of that? Sure, because like you said, look, not that I'm advocating for him, but I understand, one of the things that we looked on when we did the street studies and the parking studies in downtown, we were providing an offloading area for in the center of the village, right in front of Open Door. That was the recommendation, sure. So on one hand, we're saying we are providing on this section here offloading areas so people can come in and park, but in another side, we're saying we're taking away parking and we're not providing anything here. So my question to Karen or Maddie is it something that we can do across the street where we can say this is for offloading for any business, not just for that business, obviously, sure, but I'm talking about in general. Is anything that we can stripe the street, that corner of the street, to help the businesses around that area, so delivery trucks can park there?
Right, Deputy Mayor, just a point of clarification. So the area in front of the Open Door that we had kind of gone back and forth about was not about unloading of vehicles. It was just about like a quick 30-second unloading of people.
No,
So
I know.
you
But
know,
what I'm saying, but we were allocating, and I'm not going to argue or debate. We were allocating a section of our parking for a particular reason. Sure. So I'm going to leave it as that. So now we're not talking about this. I'm just giving you an example. So now on this other area of our village, we're not providing anything at all. So, and we know that there's a cluster of small businesses in there, not including Walgreens. So how can we help this other cluster of businesses around that area so that people can, because it's not just their the two particular restaurant slash bar. There's a couple other small stores right next to them as well that I'm sure they utilize those parking spaces for some sort of delivery as well. So how can we help that cluster of small businesses allocating some additional, offloading area across the street? Is that something that we can do? I'm sure we can.
I don't know that we can. I want to be really careful about saying what we can and can't do. That's a kind of a tricky intersection there. So you have
Across the street?
Across the street. Well, across the street, there's parking on, are you talking about in front of Forak, or are you talking about in front of?
Parking on both sides of Todd Place.
So, I mean, it would really be a question for Paul, and I can't answer that definitively without talking to our Director of Public Works first.
And I think also, I just want to remind everybody that, the way that Stuart wrote this up, sort of in conversation with the police, with Paul and myself and with Karen, is that this won't go into effect until May 23rd. So we do have a couple weeks to kind of, work on finding a potential solution if in fact one exists.
So I think the biggest challenge would be, when you're talking about a drop off for people where they're going into a building consistently every day, that's really not necessarily analogous to a delivery that may be made once a week or once every couple of months, and not necessarily at the same time. So whatever you'd be dedicating to that space would be dedicated for, I just think it's something to keep in mind. So we'll have to look into that. But not all the deliveries would necessarily be happening at the same time, and you would be taking other. So we really have to take it back to.
My suggestion would be, and we're talking about Todd Place, sure, across the street from the big old state building and all the other stuff.
Right.
Closer there. So I'm looking at the map right now, sure. Street view. On the left side, there's a sign that says one way, which is a one way, and it says no parking. And then you have a few meters after that, and then you have obviously the fire hydrant and everything. It's parking on both sides. So would you mind taking a look at this so we can help the cluster of businesses that we are, that maybe potentially affected by us removing those parking spaces in there and the all loading and loading sections that we have?
All right, we'll take it back to Director of Public Works, and we will look and see what's possible, that we can hopefully make this a satisfactory outcome for everyone.
Yeah, just look around. To Bob's point, the request is not that it's 4 feet from the front door. It could be around the corner on any of the sides. It could be across the street on the main road where now there's one car parking. I mean, that intersection's pretty rough. The person could walk with a trolley a block or two. So just look around a block or two and see if there's a loading zone sign that could be put for. And it would be, I would suggest, for certain hours of the day. It's not 24 hours a day a loading zone. It's, the Manhattan is very clear about certain hours that it allows for loading and unloading. After that, you're on your own.
That would be helpful. Mr. Diaz, the rear of the building is not a possibility?
No, because there's two. The thing is, if they find like a song space across the street, imagine the Manhattan beer. They're gonna stay there for 1 hour. They take like a 200 cases for beer.
Right.
And cross, it's too hard for the driver. It's only one person to drop empty bottles and food bottles and go back and forth. It's too hard to do that. And I tried to make all the delivery one time in 1 week. It's too hard to do that too.
Yeah,
because,
no, I know. I understand. You have different vendors.
And I don't have in the backyard. This is a little space there. It's not truck going. Small. It's not the truck. It's not going through there.
Okay.
All right.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Okay. Yeah, you're right, Maddie. Thanks for doing that. It is not related to the agenda. Thanks. Okay. I think we are at the concluding point, 8:58 on the 20th of April. I think we're ready to adjourn unless somebody has something else to add. So I think, Martha, this is where you ask.
Can I have a motion and a second to adjourn the meeting to executive session for real property?
So move.
And legal, I think, something or other. You got us so moved?
Second,
Second.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, have a good evening, and we will see you next week at a work session, regularly scheduled time. Good evening.
Good night.